Hey guys, Mr. Power here with your guide to your Scratch project for your Leaving Certificate computer course. First question some of you were asking is why we're using Scratch as part of the course, and it's quite simple really. Scratch is a fantastic way of learning a computer programming language. It's a fantastic way of learning because it's very visual and you learn all the basic functions, features and how to put programs together without having to learn a complex set of commands and syntax associated with some other computer languages. Yet all the techniques you learn in Scratch are completely transferable to languages like Java and C Sharp, etc. You're also getting 10% of your Leaving Cert credits based on your Scratch program and 10% based on the write-up to show that how much you've learned about programming and how much you've developed your knowledge of computing and Scratch through the project. It's marked under 4 criteria. It's pitch, plan, program and review, and I'm going to go through each one of them now in this presentation. The first one we're going to look at is the pitch, and the pitch is basically selling to me your concept for a game or an application. It doesn't have to be a game in traditional sense. It can be an application, maybe that's something that helps you learn a language or improve at maths, or it can be a game of any description. Once you can talk about how it's innovative, clever, how it's going to be doing something different or interesting and using a lot of functionality and features of Scratch to do this. The second part of it is the plan. Once you've got your pitch approved, you've got to carefully plan your program, start with the plot and characters that are going to be needed, and to do this also you're going to use storyboarding and pseudocode, which we're going to look at now. Along the way you're going to maintain a diary, and the diary is very, very important for doing the write-up at the end, because the write-up's got to show step by step how you've developed your program, how you've encountered problems and what you've learned from it. So you're going to put in details of your planning, all your research, and your references are vital here. If you're using code from other games that you've downloaded from the Scratch website, you must put down the details of the author and the link for the game. So you've got to keep track of all this all the way along. You won't be able to go back at the end and find all that information again. Also, you detail any changes and updates, and you're going to show in your write-up that you've really developed this from the ground up and it's not just some code that you've seen done somewhere else. The first part, as I mentioned earlier, is to come up with your plot, your sprites. That's kind of part of your pitch. And then you're going to start with your storyboard. So you can draw it out by hand and we can scan it in using the photocopier in the school. And you can see there's a storyboard in the presentation here, and it just gives an idea of how they work. You know, you've just got a few squares and you draw in different ideas of what happens along your game. Also useful is pseudocode. So if you're coming up with ideas and you're working on paper and you don't want to be coding all the time, but you can come up with the logic of how your code's going to work, and you can figure it out in English in your head and get it down on paper and then create it in the Scratch environment. So an example here is just to say, okay, when the lives are equal to 0, I got to change my background to say game over, and I've got to hide all the sprites on my stage. So that's your pseudocode, and it's important that you get some of that into your diary and your plan as well. The third part then is the program itself. So you're marked on the basis of does it work? Is it a working program? Are there bugs in it? Is the code neat? Have you used good techniques to put your code together, or is it very awkward the way it's put together? And does it use the required elements, which will be covered in a further presentation on the site. Finally then you've got to do a review of your project. You've got to talk about areas of development, how you'll develop the game or application further. What would you do differently if you were doing it again? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the program? And that, once again, this all shows how much you've developed it yourself, and it shows that you haven't just copied code from somewhere else. That's all for this presentation, and I'll hope you have a look at the further presentations before you get to work on your Scratch project.